So good afternoon, everybody on the East Coast and in the Central U.S., and good morning still to those on the West. I'm Paul Eubanks with ACI&A, and we'd like to welcome you this afternoon to our fourth Solution Showcase webinar today. This webinar series was conceived out of the recommendations put forth by our Airport Industry Recovery Advisory Panel, also known as the ARAP. As the airport industry looks for innovative solutions to ensure health and safety or increased operational efficiency. We are thrilled today to have Tracy Davis, Courtney Wright, and Don Toole with us today from Flagship Aviation Services to share with us about the work Flagship is doing to help airports harness data and innovation to restore passenger confidence and improve airport operational efficiency. As a reminder, this webinar recording will be made available to all ACI&A members at airportscouncil.org, our website. And now I'm going to turn things over and help me welcome Don to get us started this afternoon. So Don.
Thanks, Paul. Well, thanks for joining us today. We're excited to be able to share with you, and we want to talk about passenger confidence and really want to talk about seeing is believing. We're going to bring a lot more information in about how do we make things more visual and how that helps to improve passenger confidence as we move forward. And just as a quick way of doing some intros here, we want to, myself, Don Toole, I'm Senior Vice President with Flagship Aviation Services, and excited to be here today. And I'm joined by Courtney Wright. Courtney, you want to just say hello?
Hi, guys. My name is Courtney Wright. I'm the Senior Director of Business Development for Aviation here at Flagship.
And also we're joined by Tracy Davis, the President and CEO of TRAX. Tracy?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. Excited to talk with you further.
So one of the things we did is we were looking at some of the things that were going on, and recently the ACI, you put out an article, about kind of what was going on out there in the field. And in airports and airlines, you continue to focus on regaining passenger trust. The air travel recovery is proceeding. It's slow at times, it's fast at times. We hope it all continues to pick up. So with that being said, what we want to show is that in these articles, it was talking about passenger satisfaction, but it's really about passenger confidence. And there was these top 10 things that were looked at as what were the top 10 things that could be done to enhance the passenger experience and to improve that confidence that's out there. And so in this, we really want to talk about what was that number one piece. That number one piece was a feeling of safety and the healthy environment that happens within the airport. And to have that kind of success in developing consistency to meet this number one goal, you need to have a solid process to guide you. And what we're going to plan to do is over the next few slides is we're going to start with kind of a four-step process of how to maximize impacts and investments so that visibility and the innovation really does take hold, and you're not just spending money and not getting that return on that investment. So as we look at this, it's really about, having that flexible four-pronged approach. You got to continue to adjust, and you've got to support the health and safety that's happening within the process. We know that the definition of clean has really changed forever, and the current scope of work may no longer serve as the airports and its occupants continue to change. But however, the solution, you've got to realign the scopes of work. You've got to concentrate the efforts. You've got to spend the money in the right areas. And you've got to make sure that all of this is building toward trust and increased confidence. So that four-prong approach, when we approach that, it starts with you got to refocus. That's the first pillar we're working with. You've got to disinfect, you got to educate, and you have to adapt. And when you're refocusing, this is back to looking at all your different scopes. It's thinking about what are the scopes that are in the area that need to be done. I'm sure everyone has changed their disinfecting programs. I'm sure everyone has brought in different types of either misting, electrostatic sprayers, things of that nature. You may have increased HEPA-like vacuum cleaners. There's all types of things you're doing to refocus what is that platform. But you got to continue to think as you refocus, how do you make that more and more visible to what the traveling public is taking place? And then when it comes to disinfecting, you one of the things that's happening is now everybody's talking about touch point cleaning. Everybody's doing more high-end touch point cleaning. You're wanting to be more visible, whether that's the rails on the escalators or it's the seating areas, the buttons on the elevators, the touch pads that exist throughout. So it's around making sure that you've got a solid disinfecting program and how you're going to implement technology and innovation with that as well. And then it's around educating, and it's kind of talking about the education piece. It's really making sure people are visible, that the traveling public has an understanding. You know, they can see signage, they can see how are you communicating this? Are you communicating it through social media platforms? What are the other ways to make sure that we're continuing to educate people so we continue to build that confidence? And then lastly, it's around adapting. And so as we think about adapting, this is where a lot of innovation starts to come in. Adapting is, what technology should we bring? How should we bring it? You know, how do we shift into the different categories that we need to, and make sure that we're investigating how is our space set up? How are we flowing traffic now? So these are all the things that we continue to do to adapt. And as we kind of move forward here, we want to talk about technologies. And today there are all sorts of technologies that are being thrown at you, and you're hearing about a lot of different ones, and people are, kind of jumping out there to think, what is the technology that's right for us? And with so many technologies being out there today, if you're not thinking through the 4 pillars that I just kind of mentioned, you could make expensive decisions that don't bear out in the return on investment that you're looking for in terms of passengers and that confidence. And so what we hope to do through the rest of this deck is to really assist you in making these type decisions. So when you look at this on the screen, I want to highlight a couple of these. Is that when you see these, you have things such as the stall occupancy indicators. That's a big thing for people to kind of know and feel how they look and see inside of the restroom. Is that somewhere they want to be? Is it overcrowded? An interesting one, the picture over to the left, was actually from the Pittsburgh International Airport. They were the first airport to bring in a automatic scrubber that actually had UV lighting connected to it. So there's just all types of things. The odd thing you see in the middle there is actually something that we've started doing, is to improve the air quality throughout all airports and all facilities. Actually, is bringing in a continuous air and surface pathogen disinfectant unit. What these are is they're units that go inside the air handling system, and it literally puts disinfectant that's not even wet or anything. It just makes it part of the particles of the air that waits and sits down, so you have continual disinfecting throughout the environment. This is actually proven technology that's been done in hospitals for years. And actually, I believe I read an article where Long Island MacArthur Airport had actually put one of these units in there. It's a smaller airport, but they had put a unit like this in the airport. So there's all types of technologies. But the first step that, to be able to do more is there's a lot more to this. And we want to bring in a lot around sensor technologies. And with that, I want to kind of let Tracy and Courtney take us through a little more.
Perfect. Thank you, Don. So yes, we're going to be talking about how we can use technology to not only improve your operations, but to also give that confidence back to a passenger, because they're actually seeing you use technology. They visibly see, as Don alluded to earlier, signage. They visibly see custodians walking around with tablets or phones so that they can get this information in real time. And what a smart restroom platform is it's an integration tool that takes in data from a multitude of sensors. But the important part about it is that you're getting information in real time on what to clean, how to clean, and where to clean. And on top of that, you're giving that power of the data back to the custodian so that they can see the moment's notice that a passenger has provided some negative feedback about an area. They can see the moment's notice that a restroom has hit its threshold at 200 people and it needs to be serviced, or that the soap is low. And when you start to create this demand-based, data-based operation, you see that return because you're reallocating your resources more efficiently. You're making that guest experience, obviously, wildly improved. And on top of that, that confidence that passengers feel when they see the use of technology only encourages them to continue to travel more. Next slide, please, Don.
I tried it.
Thank you. So one of the easiest tools to put into a market, very quick and cost effective, is feedback. And right now in the era of COVID, obviously having something that is touchless is obviously the top of everyone's mind. So some new technologies that are being released is around this touchless feedback tools, and whether this could be a tablet where you can do a thumbs up or thumbs down, or whether this is a mobile application or a URL that's being pushed to a passenger's phone. It's now giving that voice back to the passenger, but again, giving them that confidence that they don't have to touch something inside of a restroom or inside of the airport. So this tool that we're looking at right now utilizes near field communication. And all it is a tiny sticker that is right on the entrance of a restroom threshold. And as a passenger walks in and walks out, it automatically prompts them to provide you feedback. And what's beautiful about this is that you're getting that information, you're prompting them to provide you a survey. And if the experience is poor, you know in a moment's notice. Courtney, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, so there's many benefits for this feature. One of them obviously is the data that you're able to collect from the passengers. You have real life feedback of what they're experiencing at that moment in a particular terminal, in a particular gate hold, in a particular restroom. The other great benefit, it is immediately notifying a supervisor or a manager if there is something, an issue that has come up. You'll see on the right, and I know it's small, but it pulls up a whole various list of issues. So whether that is the soap is out, or there is a spill in the gate hold area, anytime you're getting any kind of negative feedback, that is immediately alerting your facility team, your cleaning program that's dispatching a supervisor or an employee out there to rectify that situation immediately. The other thing it's doing, again, going with that passenger confidence, is it's giving the passengers a way to communicate with the airport. A lot of times people don't feel comfortable flagging someone down. So this is a way for them to feel like they're getting their voice heard without having to do that.
And I would just, I think it was said, but want to note that these can be put in other areas other than this restroom, which was mentioned, so that that grid that you see in there of what check boxes are can be customized for individual areas. So we can make that be specific to whatever those areas are.
Absolutely. So another tool that is really easy to implement is making your operations mobile, mobilizing your workforce with the use of mobile applications around quality control and cleaning. Again, if you're consuming data or if you just have schedules, allowing your custodians and your supervisors to address situations in real time and having that proof of service because they are using tools out in the field. When I say proof of service, we utilize location sensors. And again, very cost-effective sensors that can be placed throughout the entire facility or within restrooms, and it registers the moment that this mobile tool arrives. And so you have time and date stamps that work is being conducted and that it's being conducted at the frequency that your SOPs are dictating. So if that is every 30 minutes, you now know to go clean every 30 minutes. You see that 200 people have used the restroom, and you know that Tracy has arrived and she spent 30 minutes doing her work there. And furthermore, following up with quality control and inspections is wildly important right now, especially in the era of COVID, because you do want to have that reassurance that, hey, I know it was cleaned, but was it cleaned to the level that we need it to? And other areas of the airport, how is it functioning? It's not just a restroom tool, it's a facility tool. So you can get your top rated and your bottom rated locations, reports in the palm of your hand. And again, it's giving the power of this data so that you can really analyze your operation and how it's functioning, and to ensure that guests are now seeing the cleanliness happen. Again, walking around with tablets or tools, but then you're also being able to improve that guest experience and the confidence because you're addressing cleaning, you're addressing the status of the restrooms the moment they need to.
And I think the two big benefits to me with this platform is transparency and consistency. Dawn mentioned earlier refocusing a scope of work. We understand that that's happening, weekly, monthly, as different things change throughout the country, as new data comes out. And so with this platform, we can always be constantly uploading that new scope of work so that you can see the cleaning crew, the facilities team is meeting that scope of work, like Tracy said, to certain frequencies. The other thing is creating consistency throughout the airport. That is huge for cultivating that passenger trust. They want to know that the restroom that they use on landside is going to be the same cleanliness that it is on airside when they're getting their baggage claim. And so having this platform through the inspections, through training that we're able to do through there, really helps create that consistency feel throughout the airport.
Yeah, and one other note before we move forward is to that spot on, Courtney, and it's on top of the fact that you can also grow this program and add in sensors at any time. So as Courtney alluded to, having that consistent experience in a facility, and you can start here by creating that experience using this app facility-wide, and then you can start adding on these sensors to your smart restroom that is just going to feed the same platform. So you can grow it from small to large, and it's scalable no matter where you are in the airport to create that consistent experience. So another aspect of the system that has actually taken off because of COVID and creating that visible experience is digital signage. And the purpose of having all of that data is to show, again, passengers that, hey, we are cleaning, here's how frequently we're cleaning, and also showing them COVID-related messaging, social distance messaging. And the beautiful part about this is, I call it the Disney World model. So, pre-COVID, cleaning was not to really impact the passenger experience. You didn't want, custodians to be in the way of passengers going in and out of restrooms. You wanted to create this seamless environment where everything was spotless and clean and it wasn't visible. And now the opposite is taking place. Passengers do want to see the custodians hard at work, and they do want to see all of this data, and they want to have that reassurance that, hey, I might not see a custodian right now or a janitor staff working, but I know because I see the data that it was last cleaned at 12 o'clock. If we can move forward to the next one, we'll go into some more details.
And really what that's doing is it's giving power back to the passengers. So they are able to make an educated decision about, hey, this restroom is showing that it's 50% occupied. I don't necessarily feel so comfortable. I'm going to walk down 3 gates and use the next restroom. Or, oh, I can see that this was just cleaned. I'm going to go in here and it's really just creating, again, that passenger trust, that passenger confidence, and letting the passengers make the decision on what comfort level they feel best with.
And it's brandable. So it's a great opportunity to, again, to create that guest experience digitally, but to also carry your logos through, carry the look and feel of your airport, and in a way that that's going to be best suited for your passengers to capture their attention. And as Courtney said, we can do wayfinding. So it can give you walk times to the nearest restroom. It'll show you the occupancy information. It'll show you even how many stalls are available. And of course, with that COVID-related messaging and signage that is rotating through, passengers are getting back in their face that, hey, we're cleaning, but also social distance and wash your hands for 20 seconds or longer, please. So another key component of a smart restroom system is throughput counting. And we're all wildly aware of the fact that enplanements are not what they used to be. And so really understanding the fact that how did we clean pre-COVID is very different from how we need to clean post-COVID. So having a throughput sensor allows you to monitor how many people are using your restroom in real time. And this can be a very nondescript sensor that's calculating in and out, but you're now able to trigger alerts based on true footfall. And on top of that, you're now starting to see what are your busiest restrooms, which may or may not have been what they were pre-COVID, which restrooms do need to be serviced more frequently, and that threshold can be adjusted. So larger restrooms can have a larger amount of passengers going in before it triggers an alert. Smaller restrooms might have a smaller amount, but you're, again, creating that demand database cleaning operation versus a schedule so that you're having clean restrooms because you know the moment it's being used.
And I really believe this technology of all of them is going to be critical as we start to see an increase in passengers come back. For example, a lot of the airports that we operate at have dedicated restroom attendants for certain high-use restrooms during certain times. Having this knowledge, this real-life data can help us know, is this really, are we ready to go back to full-time attendance? We're back to this many passengers through per hour. I think we need to start really reallocating that scope. And having this data really lets us track all of that. Like Tracy said, maybe restrooms that were needed full-time attendance before aren't. Maybe people are getting in and out of the airport quicker now because that confidence isn't as high as it is. So just having that real-time data really lets both the airport and the facilities management company kind of work together and figure out the best way to allocate that labor.
And to take that the next step further is that with some areas that that maybe the restrooms are set on every 15 minutes or every 30-minute frequencies, where now you can actually make it more based on that true traffic count that's through there. But then you also get the further confidence and reassurance because of the the same technology is able to actually track when the cleaners go in and out of that same restroom. So you know that the proper procedures are taking place at the proper time, and you have validation of that all through a simple platform of technology. And so kind of bringing this into there's a lot of technologies, there's a lot of signage and things. So you're going to hear a lot about robotics. So, you know, the implementation of autonomous scrubbers, autonomous vacuum cleaners, there's a lot of features that can be added to these, such as, you know, the UV lighting, there's misting systems, there are spraying systems that can be added in. There's so many ways that technology is coming together today that I know that you're really being inundated with what's the best way, what are those. But, you know, I know you have a lot to think about, because it even comes down to thinking about the TSA bins. You know, how do we have a better program for this? Is there a better way to set up? What technologies can we put together? Is there a way to use sensor technology around this? And these are things that we continue to evolve as an industry to make sure that we're bringing all of that together. And then when you start thinking about, once again, it's bringing it back to the seeing is believing, and knowing that the you know, having signage everywhere. So the seeing is believing is the signs that Tracy and Courtney alluded to outside the restrooms. That's a good visual sign, but it's also just simple signs, the stickers on the floor. It's you know, cardboard or laminated out signs that are up to let people know what's happening. You know, continuing to keep the public engaged and let them know what is actually happening. I'm going to take a quick pause just a moment. I am going to talk here, but I want to let everyone know that we do have a question section that if you're wanting to ask questions through this process, if you would just ask your questions, they'll come into us. We'll be able to see them in a window, and we'll be able to go through as many of those as we possibly can get to. So please make sure that you put any questions in, find that on the toolbar, submit your questions. We'll be glad to try and give you as much feedback as possible. And also, we'll be glad to talk to anyone individually. But just want to throw that out there. If you are having questions come up, do be thinking about that and go ahead and put those questions in. That would be great. So, you know, once again, the seeing is believing. So people are seeing a lot of stuff about electrostatic spraying. A lot of this stuff happens at night. It's not happening when the public's actually there. But there are things that are happening during the daytime. And so just, you know, we want to make sure that all the things that we continue to put together, that we put them together in a way that the public really feels it, they really see it, and that way we can continue to drive passenger confidence in all areas. So some of the unique things here, many of you may have seen, is like the escalator arm cleaners. You know, we can have those actually going when the public is in place, and they actually see those going down the arms and knowing that those things are being disinfected. The odd one in the middle at the top there is actually a space vac that allows for high level dusting and cleaning of air vents, so that those are always kept clean and up to date. And then obviously you see the signage that is there. So as we continue to kind of think through the processes and what we're trying to do and try to help with, is that, you know, what we have is we have a way of really, what we're trying to show is there's a way to process through this whole results for every budget. Whenever the touchless feedback was shown with the phone, the handheld phone, and having the, you know, basically the tab that's shooting the message to ask people to actually make response via their phone. I mean, that's a simple, very cost efficient way of creating a nice way of getting feedback. You know, we do know there's applications out there, but a lot of people don't want to touch things that other people are touching. So this is just another way of taking great technology that's been put out there and taking it to another level, but keeping it somewhat inexpensive. The next thing is that we've been proud to partner with TRAX and work in many ways together to develop a program to where you're not just getting one-offs of individual pieces of an application. So the way we have developed this is through a Clean and Inspect platform, is to where we're able to drive all of this technology through one simple system, so that, you know, people in your programs, you can have this kind of setup to where you can have all this data, all this information happens within one concise, consolidated platform, versus being a lot of individual pieces that are trying to come together. You know, but once again, that's stepping up a little bit toward on the budget side as you move forward. And then ultimately, it's going out to be a part of that full digital restroom signage platforms. You know, this is where you get into the hardwiring of the systems, getting the signs up on the wall. but these things really, really do create a lot of confidence for the passengers. They're able to have confidence, they get real-time feedback. There's a lot here that can be shared, whether it's your brand imaging that Tracy mentioned, to the information of how far it is to the next restroom, or is it a restroom I want to go into when right now it shows there's 8 of the 10 stalls are currently occupied. So these are the way the traveling public can get that type of visualization and have confidence in how they move forward. But as we said, what we're trying to show you through this process as we've been talking is that there's steps to take. And it's kind of going back to those 4 pillars that we started out with. Each one of those pillars needs to be make sure they're thought through so that you're putting together a good budget so that you get the most return on investment in each items and each piece of technology, because the IoT, the autonomous scrubbers, you know, all of these other things that are all wonderful pieces that we're all utilizing, it's making sure we get all that data together and get the most out of it. I didn't know if Tracy or Courtney, if you had anything to share here real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So you nail on the head. And the goal for using a consolidated platform is that it grows with you and you can grow with it. And so, as Don said, you can start off with a smaller tool like the touchless feedback, and then you can start to slowly add in these sensors, slowly start in. And it can be a phased approach so that you know the moment your soap is empty, you know the moment the toilet paper is empty, you know where your passengers are at. And then furthermore, you can continue to grow the same platform to be a facility cleaning tool, because as we know, restrooms are only one aspect of a janitorial operation. It's important to have tools in your facility that can support the custodial operation facility-wide.
Thanks. So, you know, we started out this conversation by talking about the top 10 actions for passenger confidence based on the ACI's article from your Insight article. I think it might have been article or blog. And when you look through this and you think about increasing passenger confidence, it truly is something where we have actually, in this process, have talked about over 80% of those actions is listed in that top 10. When you think about the digital signage, that's truly a deliverable, long-distance visibility tool. And strengthening the health measures, when you have the signage out, people see this, they see it visible. All of these things are taking place, and it really helps to increase that confidence within the traveling public. And obviously everybody has the same goal. We want to see people safe. We want to see people healthy, and we also want them to be confident and see the airport traffic and the airline traffic, drastically increase, and people be able to get to more normalcy as we move forward and make sure that we're doing the best we can to protect that environment. And with that, just wanted to kind of show that we wanted to be as brief as we could, but not be too brief. So hopefully we weren't too brief with it. But we want to give everybody a chance, once again, to ask any questions that you may have or may want to ask during this time. And I do have a couple of questions in, so I will start with them. Question that came in is, what lessons have you learned from passengers giving feedback? Tracy, you want to answer that?
Yeah, absolutely. So believe it or not, passengers like to voice their opinions. And it's really great to have a tool where they can voice those opinions in a private environment versus going to social media and telling you that your restrooms are awful and now the airport's awful and my life is awful. So what we've learned is that through these tools, passengers have let us know, even from design aspects, that, hey, did you know that your soap is shooting out soap right next to the faucet? So every time I wash my hands, the sensors are so close together, you're losing all of that soap. We've had passengers let us know about floods, that the moment a toilet was overflowing, a passenger gave us this feedback, and it was actually alerted to the maintenance team through passenger feedback quicker than the maintenance team would have found it previously. We've also learned fire hazards and air quality. So passengers will tell you that, hey, the air it's hot, it's muggy, something's off. And we had an airport who actually audited all the exhaust fans, and they found that a lot of them hadn't been maintained. Some were not even functioning properly. And again, passengers had the power to voice this, and then the experience was drastically improved once those changes were made.
Thank you. So is there an ROI on the technology or use cases of savings?
Yeah, so I can start and then I can throw it to you guys from the facility perspective. So what we've seen is that there's hard and soft ROIs here. So part of it is, the guest experience is improved drastically. So you're not going to see that true ROI number with that. But the other component is utilizing inventory more efficiently. And I'll give an example. We had an airport client save over $300,000 within the first 6 months of using this platform because the way that inventory was being emptied out and reused. So when you have a schedule-based cleaning operation, sometimes the custodians will say, great, well, I know I'm supposed to clean. And even though the soap still has about 25% out, it's a part of my job description. I need to go and refill it. So they were throwing all of this inventory and it was a huge number for waste. And when they implemented technology to alert them that, hey, this soap is out right now, then the custodians could see in the palm of their hand, I have to go to that restroom at this moment to make sure it's refilled. And they saw a huge savings from inventory standpoint. And I know labor is a huge component of this, which is your forte here, and reallocating your resources more efficiently and effectively so that you might not need to, hire 10 more people, or you might need to hire 10 more people to properly manage the facility. And by consuming data, you're getting that information. But I'm not sure if you guys want to speak to a labor perspective.
Courtney?
Yeah, I mean, the reallocating of the labor is perfect because right now, and what we've seen across the airports that we service across the country is we have not had airports come to us and say, we want to cut staff. In fact, it's maybe even been the opposite because they are wanting to create that illusion of passenger, not illusion, they are wanting to create passenger confidence. But what we're wanting to do is utilize that staff that we currently have in the best way possible. And so getting this technology, we're able to do that. Things like the frequencies of the restrooms, utilizing them to handle those emergency situations or those feedback situations immediately so that someone's not having to wait 5 or 10 or 20 minutes to get a spill cleaned up or to have things restocked in the restroom. So it's really about getting that data and reallocating that labor to the best way possible based on the real life data.
Thank you. Can you elaborate on the air quality system mentioned and other sensors within that area? I guess I'll take the first part of that. So I think you're talking about what I mentioned, the disinfectant system that goes inside of the air handlers. So yes, there's lots of technologies on that. Those systems are essentially the air is flowing through the air vents, so it's going into the forced air that comes out of the vents inside of the building. So we're able to put these in places. You have to get them staged out by how many square feet these particular air units are handling. So you may need more than one. So we have to come in and kind of calculate out how big is that area, what's the CFM going between that airflow, and from there we're able to make sure we get the right items put in. And there is documentation to show the effectiveness of what these are, because like I mentioned, they come from the healthcare world. There are other items that we've done and seen. We've seen some other biotech issues that are items that have been put into these areas, as well as UV lighting. So there are UV light tubes that go through. With the UV light tubes, they tend to not cover large CFM areas. They can do smaller areas. So we just have to take and analyze each one of those areas to figure out which one is the best one to fit that application. But when you start thinking about your facility, it is so much more than just, we always say clean. And with our company, we did develop a program called Pure Clean. And within Pure Clean is not just the cleaning of the facility. It's when you think, custodial services, stuff like that, it's the clean of the entire facility. So it is those maintenance products such as doing the air quality pieces and the things that are actually disinfecting the air, for lack of a better term. It's down to have you looked at your setup of your restrooms? Can we help you convert more to all touchless? So you have touchless hand dryers, touchless water faucets. A lot of these things have already been done, but these are the kind of things that we continue to do to try and help with that. As far as sensors, I do know we have sensors that we're using within our facility maintenance side and how we're driving that and helping the airport facilities be able to do different pieces. But Tracy, you could probably give a lot better insight on that than I could.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you can think it, dream it, feel it, there's probably a sensor for it. So realistically, inside of a restroom, everything can be sensory now. And we have clients like DFW who have over 5,000 sensors airport-wide. So it can be that expansive, or it could be something as simple as putting in a throughput counter in a mobile app. So in terms of your options, we've already talked about the footfall, the throughput counting. Our platform is agnostic, so you have the power to choose what consumable provider, what vendors you have in your airport, whether that's specific faucets or toilets, but everything can give us data back. So you can know how much water usage through smart plumbing and connected plumbing. You can know the moment that a toilet is clogged through the same. We have air quality sensors. Atlanta Airport monitors trash can fill levels throughout the concourse, with compacting trash cans giving us data to let us know that the trash can's full. We have sensors that are obviously monitoring location, and the great part about it is that it's not just restroom cleaning, as we talked about earlier. The goal is to create that feeling of confidence and the consistency that Courtney mentioned facility-wide. So with this platform, you can actually put your sensors in restrooms, but you can also put location sensors in your gate holding areas for the same proof of service concept. And furthermore, integrating it with your work order management systems, integrating it with mapping systems, so that you can actually drop a pin on a map the moment that there's a spill on the floor. And again, you're creating that entire seamless experience through a series of sensors or through a series of integrations.
Excellent. Courtney, I don't know if you had anything on those.
No, I'm good.
We had a question of, how do employees get messages through the sensor system? Courtney, you want to hit that one?
Yeah, it really depends, mostly through either an iPad or, some kind of smart device. So whether that's a phone or a tablet, they receive those messages immediately. It typically goes to the supervisor in that specific area. So if we have, let's say, it's a Concourse A, restroom 3 is how it's labeled, so it would go to the supervisor in that area. They would get an alert on their tablet, on their smartphone, and then they would dispatch that employee that is servicing that area out there immediately. So it is all real time.
Yeah, and to add to that, there's ways, right? So as Courtney mentioned, there's ways to put this to the supervisor in the dispatching. There's also ways, what some airport clients, they have tablets mounted on carts. And so as they're pushing their cart around, they actually have a tablet that they're looking at that's telling them which restroom to go to. So again, there's a solution for every budget, and being able to dispatch and have your supervisors have devices and then dispatch the staff is a really cost-effective way to make sure that the information is still in real time, but not equipping everyone with devices, or vice versa. Sometimes putting a device on a person and letting them see and schedule it out, they can see the moment that their restroom needs to be serviced and exactly on a map which soap dispenser is empty. So it's powerful data when it's given to the custodian or to the supervisor staff, again, in real time.
Yeah, and it's also, it's important to be conscious that sometimes the traveling public sees an employee with their cell phone in their hand, and they think that the custodian or the workers are really not doing their job, but they're actually working with a sensor or something. But they're, but in their mind, the perception comes back that potentially that person's just over there, doing whatever, social media or whatever it might be. So, there's a lot of ways that we control that, a lot of ways that can be managed. The tablets on the carts is one great one. That is one of that does cause a little more expense and things. We also have it where there's just a simple little tokens basically that are on the badges, and the system is actually reading the tokens and the badges. So it actually is getting it that way. So there's a lot of ways, and that's really, I think, what we hope to have stressed out of this is that we really have that ability, or there is that ability. The industry has gone to having the ability, especially when you have the platforms the way we've laid it out to make it work together, is that you can go from a small piece and graduate up to whatever the greater role might be within your facility. So, but it is something that's funny about the question is a great question about how do they get it. So we do have ways, we have Task Watch, we have all types of other things that exist out there. However, you do need to be careful sometimes that if you implement a program like this and it's going to their cell phones, that that doesn't become something where it becomes a distraction that either invites them to do other things, or the traveling public thinks they're not working and they're just looking at their phones. So I think I had one more question. Lost my question. Sorry, get back to it. So can you adjust your labor by looking at this data?
Yeah, Courtney, do you want to, or do you want me to start?
Yes, I mean, the long and short answer is yes, you can adjust it to whatever the data shows. And the nice thing is that you can constantly be adjusting it because, you know, what we're seeing as we head into the holiday season is we may need to, you know, hopefully passenger count increases over the next couple of weeks. And so we need to adjust labor to modify for that. Who knows what things are going to look like in January? Maybe it scales back down a little bit. And so we're adjusting labor. The frequencies maybe aren't as high, but we're doing more high touch point cleaning that the passengers are actually seeing, or we're adjusting between shifts or between the terminals as, you know, some airports we're seeing specific terminals are shut down or specific gates are shut down. And, you know, a lot of times airports are using this time to do construction. And so things that are normally open are not, and we're able to reallocate that labor elsewhere. So yes, yes, and yes.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. A couple of our airport clients, they were looking at this data when they first installed it, and they had their standard schedule. This was years ago. They had their standard schedule, and they were realizing their staff felt that they were understaffed. They couldn't perform to the level the airport was wanting them to, and this was an internal group. And when the airport started to look at the data, they started to look at the throughput counting, they started to look at their trends, and they realized that they were sending staff to go clean at the end of the concourse when a plane hadn't come there in hours. And that would be very scary, but hadn't come here in hours. And so they were able to say, look, maybe we just need to think smarter and to work smarter. And so instead of, you know, sending our scheduled and sending our staff down to that one, let's, you know, have them team up and to tackle the areas that are really, really busy. And Courtney, you spot on. The power in the data, but it's also how you use the data. It is dynamic, and operations shouldn't be static because you should be growing, your operation should be changing with you. And looking at the data, being able to make those decisions, saying, look, I've looked over the past few months and I realized we need 5 more people on a Monday, because even days have different trends we've seen, not just dates. Holidays, we obviously know hopefully have an increased employment this year, but again, a Monday fluctuates differently than a Tuesday and then a Wednesday. And so looking at this data, creating your schedules, making sure your break shifts are matching your trends as well. We have some airports that we're allowing their teams to take their breaks at specific hours during the day, and it was a part of the way that they scheduled and made that operation work. Then they realized that they were getting hit hard at certain areas within the airport during those break schedules. And so when they were started to see this data, they said, great, let's take the break an hour earlier or an hour later so that we can meet the needs of the passenger and the SOPs that we put forth for a level of cleanliness.
And something else I just want to say about that, you know, historically, a lot of the times we have worked with the airport and looked at things like the flight plans and the flight schedules for that specific day or that specific week. Really for the last several years, assuming those flights are going to be full and adjusting our schedules based on those. Right now, we may look at a flight schedule and there may be 20 flights landing that day, but they're all only 25% full. And so what we would have, you know, adjusted for 6 months ago or 8 months ago is going to be much differently. And so even though we have those flight schedules data, if we can have the data from the actual, you know, throughputs of the restrooms and things like that, that really helps us even day by day or week by week to reallocate and adjust that labor.
No, I do want to bring a highlight that all the information that we've shared today, as far as the deck, the screen that you're seeing right now, it does show a web link that if you go there, you can get. We'll be glad to send you a copy of everything that we've shared today in this deck. And there's also a way to reach out to myself, Tracy, or Courtney. We'd be glad to give you any insights or feedback. You know, we're passionate about what we do. We enjoy what we do. We enjoy getting out here. We enjoy learning new things. We enjoy helping you solve your problems, and we enjoy being a part of the traveling public and making that impact on seeing people be confident, satisfied, and truly excited about traveling again. And we all have a responsibility in that, and we're excited to be a part of it. So please do not hesitate to reach out to any one of us. We would be more than happy to do that. But I did want to highlight that link is there. So please take a moment, go in there, and we'll be glad to get you the information. And we have some other data there that you know you might find interesting about different items or whatnot. I have had there's been several comments that have come in asking if we have like a case study or a white paper. We have several things like that. So, it would be too much obviously to do on here, but those are things that if you would like something like that, please just ask us. We'll be glad to get that into your hands. And sometimes it might be that you're looking for a specific type of data. And if we don't have a case study or white paper that's specific to that data set that you're looking for, we're probably got the ability to get that data between the three of us and our teams that are out there. We're definitely probably have the opportunity to get that information together. So we just want you to know we do welcome that feedback. We would really appreciate that. I did have one question that came in about the airplanes, and only thing I don't know that I can totally answer it, but I will try to get you some more answers back. But one of the things that we have that I have been in research and study have seen is that there is some concern that some of the chemicals that are going on and off of the seats may be a little too aggressive. It's doing the job of killing or disinfecting and the traveling public, but some of it's being aggressive to ruin the leathers or the fabrics quicker and stuff like that. So I know that's an area that we're going to be continuing to research, and so stay tuned and we'll try to give you more information back on that in the near future. But with that, I want to give a chance to Tracy and Courtney. Courtney, I'll start with you. Do you have any closing comments or thoughts that you'd like to share?
No, the only thing is I'd like to say, I am a passenger, a frequent passenger, and so I utilize and see this data weekly, or not the data, but these technologies weekly. I live in Dallas. I fly in and out of DFW. There are throughput accounting. There is the digital signage. I was actually in Terminal B earlier this week, and one of the digital signage said that the restroom was full. And so instead of waiting, I thought, okay, well, it says there's another one 4 gates down. I'm going to go ahead and walk. And, that gave me the power. And so as a real life passenger, it really does work. It makes me feel more confident in my travels every week. So.
Thanks, Courtney. Tracy?
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's funny. The digital signage is one piece that is it's taken off, Courtney. We actually are getting people that will text us selfies of themselves in front of the digital signage, which is great. But no, I think it's, as we mentioned earlier, you can really create a program that is unique for your operation. And the same old saying that we've heard in the airports for ages and ages. If you're, seen one airport, you've seen one airport. But within an operation, we've seen as we're putting in technology and implementing these programs that every airport functions a little bit differently, and their environment's a little bit different, and they have different assets and different consumable providers and different faucets and toilets. And being able to create a program that meets your individual needs and being able to use this so that it's not just sitting in a computer, but that you're giving the power of the data back to your custodians, back to your teammates, your executive level, so that everybody is rowing in the same direction. They all have the same goal of making sure that passengers experience a clean facility, that the SOPs are being met, and that people start traveling again. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I have to just, obviously data is the #1 industry in the world today. So, and it's all the way down to things that you probably didn't think data would impact as much as it does. And it definitely impacts our industry. Our industry has become so much more advanced, so much more technical than a lot of people realize. And I think COVID's actually helped bring a lot of light to what we do as an industry. And so, it makes us excited because I do know that we make a big impact. And I do know that we have a strong part in helping this move forward. And, so just to kind of reiterate what Tracy was just saying, but it's just that there are steps to take. And just make sure that when you're going through these processes, that you really do think back and kind of use that 4-pillar or whatever your platform is that you're using to make sure that when you're bringing in technologies, you're bringing in the right ones at the right time that fit your needs, because you can spend a lot of money and not get a lot of data, or you could spend a little money and get a ton of data. There's a lot of ways you can look at this. And so we're excited to be a part of that. We're excited to help you any way we possibly can. We're excited to give you insight, feedback, anything that you might need. So with that, I think that we'll be ending our call, but we appreciate your time and thanks for giving us this opportunity. And Tracy and Courtney, thanks for letting me hang out with you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.